Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. Today is the first day of our lockdown light here in Germany, and as you can imagine, on the last weekend, that means yesterday and the day before yesterday, Saturday and Sunday, everybody of course tried to do the things that we will not be able to do anymore now in November. People met their friends and they had as many parties as they could. Of course, our politicians cannot believe what they saw. How can people be so reckless? But really, what were they thinking? Did they really think that they can announce a 1 month or longer lockdown and then expect people to just stay at home on the weekend prior to that date when all these measures take effect? Actually, a lot of these rules were already in effect, and so a lot of these so-called illegal parties were terminated by law enforcement. You can now read newspaper articles like this. In Bavaria, the police terminated a party with 9 different people from 6 different households. Or then, near Regensburg, 6 people were partying on Friday night in a private apartment. The police found out about the party because a drunk young woman was brought to the hospital. Yeah, this is really newsworthy, absolutely. But my favorite newspaper article was from Munich, and it was already happening on Friday, but it was published later. The police was notified by several callers that in a restaurant there was a party with around 100 guests. It was the birthday party of a 1-year-old child. The police was called, they ended the party. The owner of the restaurant and the organizers of the party are facing charges now. So these were some of the individual events, but overall one can read from the news, the police says that this weekend was a little more action than usually. And you know, what do they really expect? Of course, people want to party when they know that during the whole month of November and maybe longer, they can't do that anymore. But I also talked to my relatives or to people from my hometown. They don't live in Munich, they live in a more rural area. And I think people in the rural area, especially the youth, the younger kids, they are a little smarter. Or maybe they have options that these city kids don't have, or they don't know that they have them, because I think the city kids also have these options. So what people in rural areas did was they didn't celebrate in the center of the town at the marketplace or something, or near City Hall, or even some illegal rave party in an abandoned warehouse. No, what they did, they took the car and they drove deep into the forest. Then you are in the middle of nowhere and it is pitch black. If you organize that well, you will have loud music and cool drinks and any other substance you like. And then you can party like there is no tomorrow and nobody cares. Because of course the police are concentrating on the towns and not on the forests right now. And in the middle of these forests, in the middle of the night, there are no cops anyway. Maybe they could find the party by satellite or by helicopter. You must have a group of friends that you know well, of course, and the downside is that the way to the next hospital might be a little longish. Also, you should have designated drivers, of course, but that is something that you usually do. Overall, I think though that this is the much smarter solution compared to those city kids who vandalize the city or have a party so that they get really in conflict with law enforcement. And even if you have a party in the privacy of your home, some neighbor, as we have learned from the news now, will inform the cops. And also, if you celebrate in the forest, if you party in the forest, I think this is a good opening for a 70s horror movie. Imagine that movie script. There is a lockdown and some young folks just want to have a party, so they go into the forest. And maybe that is why the city kids don't do it. I mean, maybe they don't have a car, you know, in rural areas you really need a car. Maybe when you live in Berlin or Frankfurt, these 18-year-olds, they don't have their own car. But maybe there is another reason why they don't dare to go to Brandenburg into the forest to party, or from Frankfurt to the north of Hesse and then party in the deep black forest there. Maybe these very diverse and colorful city people, maybe they have some fear, some phobia maybe even. Or maybe they just watched some old horror classic where you have a flat tire somewhere in flyover country, and then you end up as a taxidermy project in some hillbilly's shed. Because I said that before on my channel, it is really noticeable that in Germany, or I don't know, maybe in Central Europe or Europe as a whole, when you go a little bit further away from civilization, even from small towns, and like you go hiking in the woods and in the mountains and the hills, you notice that all the people that you meet there, like fellow hikers or campers, they're all indigenous Europeans. These new double plus Germans and all these irregular guests and travelers, they somehow stay put in their cities, and not even in their cities, even in their neighborhoods. Many of them, even at adult age, have not seen the entire city and only stayed in their immediate neighborhood. So maybe they are really afraid of what might happen to them if they meet the locals in the forest. And another thing I want to add is, of course, that this shows also how fed up people are with these measures right now. Of course, some of them who want to go a less confrontational path, like I just described, these rural youths who just go into the forest because nobody bothers them there. They just try to hide and to evade the supervision from the authorities. But then there are people who might actually find an interest in confronting the authorities. And this is maybe the most important reason why the youths in the city are openly violating all these rules and really angrily going against law enforcement there. So this was the weekend before the lockdown. But I have a hunch that they will not keep quiet, that during the lockdown, during November, we will have a lot of clashes between the authorities and young people who want to celebrate and, the event and party scene. Even though it's getting a little wet and a little colder, I think they just are really fed up with all these measures. I mean, it is since spring and the entire summer. I mean, it was a little more loose in summer, but they were still bothered even then. And now they want to start again being super strict. I think there is a point when they just don't want to accept that anymore. But of course, this is just child's play when you compare it to what is going on in the United States at the moment, where we will really have a hot autumn probably, or we're already in this hot autumn, but that's a different topic. More about that in the next video probably. But even in other European countries where it is not really political because of an election that is going on right now, or a low intensity, but maybe soon high intensity civil conflict, in other European countries I noticed that open resistance against these health measures, these pandemic measures, are seen right now. In many European countries, people are openly going against their government and against the authorities. In Germany, not so much. It's just, as I said, some young people who party even though it's not allowed. But in other countries, there is really more. In Italy, for example, and also in Spain. Earlier this year, we saw it in Serbia. And who knows, maybe it is only a matter of time before we see that in Germany also. So this was my report today. I thought it was just funny that a birthday party of a 1-year-old kid had to be terminated by force by Bavarian cops. And that 9 different people from 6 different households just celebrated in an apartment. Oh my god. Take care. Servus, Kameraden.